Hello everyone. Today I'm here with a versus video, or as I like to call it, a knife fight. Today's bout is going to be fought by the hunting heavyweight, the Buck 110 folding hunter, against the agricultural force of nature, the Case Sod Buster. The tale of the tape on these knives goes as follows. The Buck 110 folding hunter, which is said to be the father of all modern tactical knives, was born in 1963 and marketed in 1964. It has a 3.75 inch blade of 420 HC steel with the legendary Paul Boss heat treatment. This blade is 1/8 of an inch thick. It has an overall length of 8.62 inches and is 4.87 inch long when closed. The knife has a whopping weight of 7.2 ounces due to its heavy brass construction and diamond wood handles. The Buck 110 runs anywhere from $28 to over $50 and has an MSRP of $82. It is made in the United States of America. The Case Sod Buster, another venerable design, was first introduced in the late 60s and is based on a classic peasant knife design. This simple and functional knife has a 3.6 inch drop point blade made of Case's proprietary True Sharp stainless steel. The blade is roughly 1/8 of an inch thick. The overall length of the case is 8.6 inches, as you can see. When closed, it is 4.7 inches long, and it weighs 4.7 ounces. It features a polymer handle and a solid brass pivot. MSRP on the case is $45.70, and while they come in several varieties, the basic variety with the classic plow illustration sells from anywhere from $29 to $35. The Case knife is proudly made in the United States. Getting into it with both knives, I've made up a list that they're going to fight this bout on, and we're going to award points, and the winner will be declared the winner of the versus video. I've made several categories by which these knives will be judged, and we will determine who wins the bout between the hunting heavyweight and the agricultural force of nature. Let's begin. Okay, so the first category is going to be handle weight, which, if you look at the Buck, has a very heavy, thick handle, which some people love because they feel like it fills their hand and has that weight behind it. Then if you look at the Sod Buster, it's nice and lightweight, which some people prefer because when they're using the tool for a long time, they don't want to hold 7.2 ounces of brass. I'm going to award this point on my chart to the Case Sod Buster, for the reason that when you're using the tool for a long time, it's nice to have something that's lightweight. Though I do like the Buck handle and have used it for a long time, it is very comfortable. If we look at art and design, you have the lovely design of this traditional farming plow with the old-timey Sod Buster name written out in what looks like an Old West kind of font. It's kind of a cool laser etching. And then we have the classical Buck 110 design. As much as I like the traditional plow, I'm going to award the point for art and design to Buck for the overall design of the knife and handle and the classic diamond wood. I don't think you guys will mind if I whittle a little bit. Overall feel. Oh, that's a hard one. I really enjoy how the Buck feels as the brass wears in with your hand as you use the knife. Your hand oils, they actually kind of degrade the brass a little bit. I've actually dropped this knife several times, and while those craters were much more pronounced at one time, they're now less because the brass actually wears away. The Case Sod Buster, on the other hand, feels nice in the hand as well, and you can whittle with it, as you can see. It's a very usable knife, but I just don't feel it has the same overall feel as the Buck 110, or the feel that it wears in with your hand because of the plastic being a material that will not wear away, which has its perks in other areas. Point buck. Retention when wet. Honestly, neither of these knives was really made to be used in very slick conditions. It's not to say that they aren't, but I'd say that each knife would probably be equally miserable in that they're designs without any grip or give in the handle. I'm going to give the point for retention when wet to the buck. Comfort for long use. Case Sod Buster, very lightweight. Doesn't have any hot spots or anything to obviously irritate your hand when you're using it. The buck, similar, even though it's heavy. The one thing about buck is the brass, if you hold it for a very long time, will actually react with the sweat in your hands and leave blue marks on your fingers. So for that reason, I'm going to give this point to Case. Alright, blade. Factory edge. It's been a long time since this knife has had a factory edge. This one is significantly newer, so I do believe this is still the factory edge. Case's grinds tend to be very uneven sometimes. They rival Benchmade in that regard. I'm going to give factory edge to buck. Shape for cutting. Also a hard one because both of these knives can be used for cutting quite well. I would say that the Sod Buster has an edge on general cutting as the tip of this blade is thicker than the tip on the buck, and buck tips have been known to break off. So for cutting, we're going to give it to Case. Slicing. No contest here, buck. Designed to slice through animals and game and other things that you have killed on the hunt. The 110 Folding Hunter also has this fake edge up here, which aids in the slicing and gutting of animals, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of which have been gutted with 110s. Carving. I personally like the 110's blade shape for carving. The only downside of the 110 is some of the false edges on the 110s are sharp from the factory, not blade sharp, but sharp, and I have come near to cutting my thumb on that edge. Still, I'm going to give it to buck for carving. Steel choice. Case doesn't say what exactly true sharp steel is. A lot of people suspect that it's 420HC in some variant, or possibly 440C. Either way, it's a decent steel. Not my favorite, not my least favorite. But I'm giving this to buck because they have the legendary Paul Boss heat treatment, which takes 420HC and allows it to rival steels like 154CM. Attention to detail on lock face and pivot. This might be trickier to see with the camera, but what I'm referring to is where this blade meets the lock face, right here, or the pivot, right here. Sometimes these can be very rough. This one here, it's almost biased toward the left side of the knife, but the lockup is good. Not a lot of play on that. This knife has no play, and while you can see it's a little rounded, the lockup is much flatter on this buck than it is on the Case. That's not to knock Case down, it's just that there's a little more attention to detail with this particular pivot. So, point buck. Durability. I would honestly say durability is a draw. I have dropped this knife. I've abused this knife. I've put scrapes in it from cutting wood that had stones in it. The Buck 110, as anyone who owns one knows, is a tank. You're not going to break it in terms of durability. The Case Sod Buster, also a tank, has a very thick blade for a Case knife, and it's not really sold as one of Case's frou-frou collectible, pretty knives with a very colorful handle that's designed to be put in a case and never used again. I'm going to call that one a draw. Blade thickness. In so much as a category The buck knife is technically a little thicker, according to what I measured it with a ruler. I don't have a micrometer or caliper, so we can't do it that way. I'm going to give blade thickness, however, to Case, as the blade is a little thicker throughout the whole blade, rather than this design here where you have it thick in the back and then thinner in the front. Ease of sharpening. Full disclosure, I've never sharpened this one. I have sharpened this several times, as you can see from the edge. I tested my sharpening skills early on with this knife and somewhat boogered it up a little bit. It's a very easy knife to sharpen, however, and I had no problems with it. I've sharpened other Case knives. I haven't had an issue with them either. I suspect this one wouldn't be a whole lot different. For ease of sharpening, I'm going to give it to Buck. Okay, my other category, office friendly. A lot of people are going to see the 110 and they're going to see the clip point and they're going to think it's scary, not to mention it has a lock. So the point is Case. Affordability. While these knives roughly have a similar street price, the Bucks are a little more expensive depending on which store you go to. A lot of people have paid $50 for this when they really don't need to. So I'm going to give affordability to Case. Now, if we look at the overall results of the bout, Buck has a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Case has a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, the heavyweight champion of the match is the Buck. He probably would be the world champion among several knives. It's a well-known favorite. But I would say the Case knife fought admirably and should be considered in your collection as well. But the winner of this bout is Buck 110 Folding Hunter. Thanks for watching.